Hey, what's going on, my friends? I hope you're all doing absolutely amazing. And today, yes, we just got back from Japan. Today, we're going to be talking about the cinematic vlog setting in the Sony ZV-E1. Now, this is one thing that I really wanted to test out, and I filmed a lot when it came to the Sony ZV-E1, and being in Japan, it was amazing. Sony Australia did send 4 of us creators from Australia to Japan to experience this, and then there were 3 other Aussie creators that were already over there, and they pretty much met up with us, and it was just an amazing experience. We went to a whole bunch of different places in Mount Fuji and in Tokyo, and overall we just had some quality time with some amazing people. Anyway, let's get into the video. We're going to be talking about the Sony ZV-E1 and the cinematic vlog setting. Now, I was only going to be doing this for one day over in Japan, but I ended up doing it for pretty much the whole time. I filmed a lot in S-Log3, and then I whipped it back into cinematic vlog mode and filmed the cinematic vlog because I was like, this is actually really cool, just seeing it in camera. Now, when it comes to cinematic vlog mode in the camera, essentially what it does is bakes in a 2.35 to 1 cinematic bar ratio, and then it also bakes in a selected look, which is what we're actually going to be discovering and talking about today, because it was very interesting. The great thing about this one is that literally it bakes in the look, so you don't have to do this in post-production. Some people don't know how to color grade. Some people don't know how to do the cinematic black bars. Some people don't know how to throw in, you know, sharpness on top or contrast, or those kind of things. Some people don't know how to do that. This gives you the option to do it in camera. That is the most powerful thing about some of the features in the ZV-E1. Now, there are 5 different looks. You've got S-Cinetone, clean, chic, fresh, and mono. And then within those 5 looks, you have 4 different moods. You've got auto, gold, ocean, and forest. And we're going to be breaking down exactly what these looks are, especially when it comes to skin tones. And we're also going to be talking about some of the things that I like, but also some of the things that I, don't like. So when it comes to the S-Cinetone look in this cinematic vlog, like I said, the 2.35 to 1 ratio cinematic black bars bakes it into that 16:9 footage. And what it also does in that S-Cinetone, it doesn't seem to be as saturated as the normal S-Cinetone in picture profile number 11. Now, what it also does on top with all the looks is it actually bakes in a little bit more digital sharpness. So your footage actually looks 110% finish right out of the box, so you don't have to touch it or do anything, color adjustments, nothing. It's pretty much what you see is what you're going to get in the final image. And some of you guys actually know that, if you use S-Cinetone, you still have to put a little bit of saturation, maybe a little bit of contrast, and play around with it just a little bit, because it does seem to be a little bit sort of subdued and not as a finished product. Now, when it comes to clean, this one seems to be just a touch more vibrant than S-Cinetone, and it also seems like it raises the shadows up just a little bit. So it actually looks quite nice, because sometimes the shadows can be quite crushed in S-Cinetone, but that could be the desired look that you go for. It really depends. That's why they give you so many options. But and then you add obviously auto, gold, ocean, and forest on top, whichever mood you actually want to go for. Then the next one is actually chic, and the chic one is very stylistic because it is quite desaturated and less vibrant in terms of the colors. The sharpness obviously still is there. The shadows, is quite dark. It just gives you a really stylistic look in this one. And then you have fresh, which seems to be the most vibrant, the most saturated, and just gives you a really, really strong look right out of the box. And I do actually like it. I think it looks quite good, especially if you do have some really rich tones in your scene. It looks quite nice in my own opinion. And then the last one, you actually have mono, which is your standard black and white. And if that's something that you go for, absolutely go for it. It bakes it right in there, and it looks quite nice. Obviously, like I said, it's digitally sharpened, it's nice and contrasty. The shadows, are quite, I suppose, even when it comes to that, as opposed to doing it in post-production, but this one bakes it into the camera. Okay, now when it comes to the moods, there are, like I said, 4 different moods. Now, auto was kind of like your flatter, just basic, I suppose, mood of the 4 when it comes to all those different looks. And then you actually have gold on top. So you essentially you have those those looks, and then you put gold mood on top, which, you know, gives it more of a warmer vibe overall, which is really interesting. But if you don't like that, then you can choose the next one, which is Ocean. And Ocean was more like a fresh sort of, I suppose, cooler vibe to your footage and just gives it overall more of a bluer tone. And then the last one was actually Forest, which gave you more of a greener tone. So if you're really into those sort of green vibes and, you know, like David Fincher, those sort of things, and that's probably what you would actually go for. So now one of the major caveats about this one is that it actually locks in your white balance. So it only allows you to do auto white balance in this. And that could be a good thing, but that also could be a bad thing because we were indoors and it was a really sort of warm light coming from this light and we were having dinner and I had it in gold and in fresh. It was really vibrant and it was just over warm. It actually kind of ruined the footage and I didn't want to actually shoot inside because it didn't look good, but it was too much in the end. And if I was able to adjust that white balance and just, you know, cool it down just a little bit in camera, it would have been good, but you know, you can't do that. Now, I guess one of the major things about this is that it bakes in that 2.35:1 aspect ratio, the black bars at the top and bottom, in that 16:9 footage. So if you want to be able to, you know, move the footage around in post-production, unfortunately, you can't. You could just potentially, you know, film in 16:9 and then add the black bars in post, but it gives you sort of wiggle room to move the scene up and down a little bit. And it is a bit of a con, and I did ask Sony about that one, you know, is it possible in a future firmware update to remove those black bars in case we didn't actually want it, but we still want that look? And, you know, we never know, see if that comes. Okay, so the last part we have to talk about is the dynamic range. Now, you do get less dynamic range in these picture profiles because S-Log3 does give you the highest amount of dynamic range. If you don't know what dynamic range is, essentially it captures the most amount of information between your highlights and between your shadows. So it really gets as much information as possible. And that's kind of how you can try to, you know, not clip your highlights, but still keep your subject nice and exposed correctly. But sometimes with these other picture profiles, you do have to try and, if you want to retain your highlights, your subject's going to be relatively dark. So you're going to have to try and bump up those levels. And then obviously your sky is going to be blown out. But they're the pros and cons. But some people won't even notice the difference. But the great thing about the Sony cameras is that you do have massive amounts of dynamic range, and that's where S-Log does win over these kind of picture profiles. So anyway, that is my thoughts on the cinematic vlog mode, and I absolutely enjoyed using it. It was really enjoyable. It actually made me want to shoot more because you could just really see that final image in camera, and some of the times it is about the experience. It's about actually utilizing these cameras. That's why a whole bunch of people are getting Leica cameras and Fuji cameras, because they just really like the experience in using it and not necessarily, you know, the image that comes out of, even though the image, you know, is quite beautiful. But, you know, it comes down to the experience and enjoyment. And that is part of being a creator, is, you know, enjoying what you're doing and not just, you know, banging out video after video and trying to create content all the time. It's, you know, enjoying the process at the end of the day. But if you do want to see more of my ZV-E1 videos, obviously be sure to subscribe. You can check it out. The link will probably be in the description below, or at the end you can see that I've put it into a full, you know, folder of videos anyway. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, let's get it.